Welcome back to Sampstra Top, the place to find top strategy games. And today we're going to go through news and releases of games that came out into full release or have some DLCs or other interesting news in November 2022. We're going to start it off with Panzer Corps 2. They have a brand new DLC, 1944. The DLC came out on the 8th of November 2022. What is Panzer Corps 2? Panzer Corps 2 is a pretty amazing war game. I have a lot of Let's Plays and some guides for this game on my main channel, Sampstra Games. It's a war game that focuses on World War II, and it's just pretty amazing one. Now this DLC 1944 is going to offer two new campaigns. So we're going to have a historical campaign and an ahistorical campaign. In the historical campaign, you're going to be focusing on the decline of the German Wehrmacht and as it struggles to survive against the Allied onslaught. And the ahistorical campaign will work like this. The idea is that you can continue the campaign as if the Germans have secured the Caucasus region and are going to be trying to defend your extensive conquest from all sorts of enemies. This ahistorical campaign is actually continuing from some of the previous DLC, so if you dare secure the Caucasus region, you could continue from that point on, but both of the campaigns will be independently available, so you can just jump into those if you'd like. The DLC also offers 20 new scenarios. Steel Inferno. This is a DLC for Gary Grigsby's War in the East 2, and it came out on the 10th of November 2022. November was apparently a great month for war games because we got so many DLCs. So this is a war game that focuses on the Eastern Front of World War II. Steel Inferno has 8 new scenarios and 2 new campaigns. 2 of these scenarios are really interesting because they show off a new area on the map that we haven't seen before. So specifically for scenario drama on the Danube, you're going to be able to do the certain operations in Yugoslavia. This scenario is actually interesting for another reason as well, because it is different if you're playing against AI or another person. Another scenario that shows off a new area of the map is a road to Karelia, which shows off a section of the Finnish front. Casual War is a game that came out already in April 22, but 10th of November came out onto PlayStation and Xbox. And Casual Wars is a 2D turn-based strategy game, and what's really interesting is you're going to be fighting against these kaiju monsters, and it's not always your goal to actually kill the monsters. More often than not, you're just going to be trying to survive for X amount of time for a scientist to figure out different tricks to stop the enemies. So, and you're going to be sending out your tanks and your jets, and more often than not, they're like a sacrificial unit there to just try to stall the enemy and protect your other buildings and your people so that they still pay you taxes, and you can use the money to build more tanks to survive or try to do a little bit of damage. And it's a really fun game. Poker Quest Sword and Spade is a roguelike deck builder with a poker team. So the idea is that in order to attack or defend, you have these items and you have to activate them by getting the right combination of cards. Maybe you need a pair, maybe you need a card that's summed to a certain amount, maybe you need spades or cards of a specific type, and etc. And then you can activate your attack, and the same goes for the enemy. They have to draw a pair or right combination. It's really interesting because you also have these options to stun an enemy if they have a really good card, or you can draw extra cards if you need a better combination, and you have these different items, and each of them allows you to do different things. You can poison, you can defend, you can attack, and etc. And you just have to figure out what card to use to what item to get the best effect. And it came out into full release on 14th of November 2022. Now before we continue, if you like poker, hit that like button. And if you hate poker, click that subscribe button. Naval Hurricane. Naval Hurricane came out on the 16th of November into early access. Now, you might be surprised and be like, I thought this was full releasing DLCs video. You're right. I forgot to put this one into my previous video for top upcoming strategy games that came out into early access in November. So I'm putting it here instead. And you can check out the other early access games in that video I mentioned. So Naval Hurricane is a turn-based tactical war game. And the way it works is that you will be controlling a specific ship or a series of ships. And this is a very detailed war game in the sense that you're very much on the ground controlling the ship. So you will be calculating the elevation of your cannons to make sure that you hit the ship correctly. And as you're going to be moving, you're going to have to adjusting that. And then once your ship gets hurt, you're going to be handling different models. So you'll have to handle flooding. You'll have to handle fires. You have to fix parts of the ships. It's very sort of detailed, very much in the combat kind of game where you're just in that one ship and you're controlling and trying to figure out how to fight. And this is focusing on the war at sea between the British Royal Navy and the German Navy during World War I. Next up, we have Flashpoint's campaign Southern Storm. This is a grand tactical war game that is set during the Cold War, and the actions is centered around the year 1989. It came out into full release on November 17 on Matrix Games. It's not on Steam yet. So what's interesting about this war game is that it's a little bit of a higher level. While you still can in some cases grab a unit and say attack that one through assaults or barrages or things like that, in general you're going to be more focusing on how you want your units to move, and then the combat is somewhat automatic. So the units will, as they're moving in the form of movement that you choose, if they see an enemy that it's good or tactical for them to attack, they will hit them. And then you have these standard operating procedures that can determine how they will move. For example, if they take a lot of damage, they will move away or something like that. It's a WEGO war game, so that means that you will be giving out orders and then the units will be moving simultaneously, and then after a certain amount of time passes, you will again give out orders. I actually have a few guides for this game on my main channel and also some Let's Plays that are sort of showing off how the game looks. Oakenfold came out into full release on 17 November 2022. And Oakenfold is a really interesting game. It's a turn-based combat game with some almost like puzzle-like mechanics. So the idea is that aside from dying by using all your health, you have these crates that you have to protect. And if the enemy destroys the crates, it's essentially game over for you. And the game has a puzzle-like mechanic or system in the sense that there's like an infinite undo button. It's called a time scrubber, and you can always go back. And the idea is that you have to figure out how to move yourself and how to push enemies or teleport them around to make sure that they will not hit your crates or potentially hit you as well. So it's a really interesting game because you're not always just going to be doing damage to enemies. It's more really about pushing them around, pulling them, moving them, using grappling hooks, and just making sure that they hit. Because the way the enemies work is that they have a set attack. Like, for example, they attack 2 hexes away from themselves, and if you move them around, then they will just attack a different hex. Extinction Eclipse came out into full release on 17th November, and this is technically a space action strategy game, but I think it plays a lot like an RTS. It has some 4X elements as well. Your idea is that you're going to be exploring the space and trying to conquer different asteroid fields to mine and extract resources. You're going to be building different ships. You're going to be building like fighter ships and then mining ships and then like battle cruisers or different bigger ships. You're going to be researching a little bit. You're going to be building stations, turrets, and etc. And that's a really interesting story because essentially the aliens came to Earth and they built this little grid around the sun, which makes it really difficult for you to survive on Earth. So we try to communicate with them, but they didn't answer, so now we have to fight the aliens. Next up, we have a DLC called Falklands for Command Modern Operation. The DLC came out on the 24th of November 2022. Command Modern Operation is another war game, and it's a huge war game. Like, The tutorials takes hours and hours on this game because this game is incredibly detailed but also incredibly complex. There's just so much you can do in this war game, and there's a huge amount of different scenarios. Falklands specifically is a focus on a war that happened 40 years ago when United Kingdom and Argentina went to war over the possession of the Falkland Islands. The DLC will have 13 scenarios plus 2 bonus ones, and it has air, surface, and also underwater combat. Alright, I'm glad you're still here. That means you enjoyed this list, so don't forget to click subscribe to see more of those. And if you enjoyed any of these games, you can check out my main channel, Sampstra Games, to see more Let's Plays and other videos. And you can click on the right to watch my top upcoming strategy games that came out to early access on November 2022.